Salvaging hardwood flooring can be a great material if you can get it either inexpensively or, better yet, free. However, it does require a lot of labor to get it back to usable material. So in this video, I'm going to show you my method for getting the floor nails and or cleats out. Very basic tools, no fancy jigs, just a little bit of elbow grease. So let's just go through the very basic tools that you're going to need. Okay, first and foremost, wear some eye protection. You're going to be hammering at cleats, nails. There's going to be dust and debris, all sorts of stuff. Let's keep your eyes protected. You're obviously going to need a hammer, and I like to keep a pair of needle nose and just a regular pair of pliers. The needle nose come in handy every now and then. The big pliers, the regular pliers, will always be needed for this project. A punch. Okay, this is going to be an absolute saving grace when it comes to hammering out nails or cleats. And then I like to keep a flathead screwdriver on hand. I will use this as like a mini pry bar. If I bend over a nail or whatnot, I can stand it back up and continue to hammer it home. A rare earth magnet or a magnet of any kind, because if you snap a nail or snap a cleat or whatever, you want to be able to find those pieces. You just stick it to your screwdriver and away we go. Some sort of container, okay? I'm using an old butter container or butter box because you want to throw all of your nails and cleats into something so that they just don't get strewn about your shop. And also when it comes to disposing of them, okay, you can just seal it up, put some tape on it, and they won't, when they get disposed of, they won't just go flying everywhere and you step on them later or run them over with a tire or whatever the case may be. Get some clamps, okay? And, depending upon the length of your pieces, you may only need one or two. I'm working with some pieces that are fairly long, so I'm going to need at least two or three. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of scenarios that these tools are going to come in really, really handy, and we'll show you how to go about doing this with no fancy jigs and no fancy tools. Now, hopefully, this will go as planned. I just have a board here, right? I got a single cleat. Now, when it comes to orienting it on your workspace, this is important. You want to try and get it as flush as possible, maybe slightly behind the edge of your work surface, because if you are trying to save the tongue, you don't want to damage it when prying out your cleat. So let me just show you what I go through here. One thing I forgot to mention in the previous clip, I like to wear a glove. This will come in handy. Sorry, I had to grab my other glove. This will come in handy because I don't really know what's on this, and I like to use my finger to kind of prop the piece up so I don't bend it over, and then when I start to hammer home, I'm not getting any rust or whatever on there. So, time to hammer home. So, if they all came out that easy, then this would be super easy. But you just get in there and boom, nail comes out. Super easy, right? Okay, 3 situations that you may run into. What I've gone and done is I've snapped most of the cleat off. So the cleat is still underneath the tongue here, but I've bent the remainder of it off. This is where the punch comes in handy. So again, you just take your punch and your old hammer, line it up, and you should be able to get enough of it out to where you can get your hammer on it, pull it out a little bit more, and then, well, I dropped it, but there's where the magnet comes in handy. Okay, and be able to get the remainder of the cleat out. Okay, another situation, and this is where I keep that screwdriver on hand. Let me move my clamp here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I've bent this guy over. If you're not very careful with how you're striking with the hammer and you bend it over, again, This is where the screwdriver comes in handy, and you just stand it back up. Real simple. And then again, now usually what happens is when you bend it over, then they are not going to comply, and you're going to end up with a big mess like this. Here's where your pliers come in handy. When I get a situation like this, chances are the cleat isn't going to want to stay straight as I hammer out. I just snap it off. Back to the punch. Fire it out. Hopefully we have enough to grab onto. And remove the cleat. Now, what happens if while you're trying to pry the thing out and you snap the head of the cleat off? Again, here's where the punch comes in handy. You should, like that, just be able to push the thing through. Pair of needle nose, and pull the guy out. Those are probably the three most common issues you're going to run into if you just don't get the nail or the cleat to fire out nicely. So there's my process for removing cleats. So there it is. No fancy tools, no fancy jigs, just a lot of elbow grease and some patience. Just know this. It's going to take some time, and you are not going to be able to save and salvage every single piece of material that you're working with. That's just part of the ball game. I'm going to be using a whole bunch of the material you saw in this video in future projects, so hopefully you'll stick around for those. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we'll see you in the next one.